Hello and a very warm welcome to iPodcast, the audio podcast from IPM. It's great to have you with us. In this podcast, we talk about everything that drives the modern world of print. Our format is aimed at everyone who ensures, day in, day out, that data is turned into magnificent print products, whether you work in pre-press, at the press, in quality assurance, or in management. Our goal is to provide you with the tools and professional knowledge you need to make your daily work easier, faster, and more profitable. In short, iPod is the podcast for you if you don't just want to master the processes in your company, but also want to develop them further, making them smarter and more efficient. Right then, let's get started.
Imagine you're standing there, right in front of the final print. Everything is perfectly calibrated. The colors on the monitor look, well, absolutely fantastic.
Top.
But the result on paper is, different.
Yeah, that different. I think we all know that feeling.
Exactly. Not completely wrong, but not 100% right either. You know that feeling, that nagging uncertainty.
Absolutely.
So what could be the cause? Often, it's a factor you don't even consider, an invisible factor. And today, we're going to put that factor in the spotlight.
And that brings us right to the topic. The light itself. You can have the best machines, the most expensive papers, the most perfect profiles.
All the best stuff.
Exactly. But if the final authority in the process, namely your eye, is deceived by the wrong light, then everything before that was, well, almost for nothing.
That's a harsh statement.
It is the source of error that is most often overlooked, simply because we take light for granted. It's just bright.
That's why today, we're diving deep into this world of professional color assessment. We're talking about the so-called light audit according to the standard ISO3664. Together, we want to find out why the right light in your print shop isn't just a nice-to-have, but perhaps the most crucial building block for consistent results.
Absolutely, the most crucial.
By the end of this analysis, you will, we hope, understand exactly where the hidden traps are lurking and how you can ensure that what you see is really what you print. Okay, let's break this down. First, the very basics. ISO 3664. At first, that sounds like, well, bureaucracy.
Yeah, that definitely sounds dry.
Why do you need such a strict rule for something as seemingly simple as light?
Because light is anything but simple. A light audit, according to this standard, is basically a tough technical inspection of your lighting conditions.
An inspection, okay?
It's about making sure that every single workstation where you or your colleagues make a color decision,
Whether it's in pre-press or the press room.
exactly, be it at the monitor or directly at the machine, that this place corresponds exactly to the standard specifications for D50 standard light.
So it's not about a subjective assessment of whether the light looks, let's say, good or pleasant.
Not at all. That's the crucial point. Subjectivity is the enemy of repeatability.
Ah, okay.
The goal here is absolute, measurable reliability. You want to be able to guarantee that a specific blue looks exactly the same under your light today as it will in 3 months.
And the same for everyone?
And that it looks the same for your colleague at the machine next to you as it does for you. It's about replacing opinions and gut feelings with facts.
So it's like a technical inspection for your light?
That's a great analogy.
You don't just want it to be bright, but the right kind of bright. A common language of light, so to speak, so that a printer in Hamburg sees the same thing as their colleague in Munich when they're talking about the same color tone.
Exactly. You create a common, reliable foundation. And without this foundation, any discussion about color is ultimately just a guessing game.
Okay, that makes sense. But what exactly is checked during such a light inspection? When I think of good light, I, like most people probably, think mainly of bright enough. That's surely the most important value, right?
Most people think so, yes. And the illuminance is also the first of 5 core areas.
That's the pure brightness. The target value at the viewing station is 2000 lux.
2000.
Exactly, with a tolerance of plus or minus 500 lux. But, and this must be said very clearly, that's just the entry ticket. That's the baseline that has to be right.
Just the entry ticket.
Yes. The really expensive mistakes, the ones that lead to complaints, they are hidden in the other 4 areas.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. We have the entry ticket. So what's the first area that separates the wheat from the chaff?
That's the color temperature, also called CCT, and very importantly, the associated light spectrum.
Okay.
The standard requires exactly 5,000 Kelvin, which corresponds to neutral daylight, so D50.
5,000 Kelvin, you might know that from lamps at home. Exactly. But, and this is a huge but, it's not enough for a lamp to just somehow reach 5,000 Kelvin. What's crucial is how it gets there, so what the entire spectrum of the light looks like. And the invisible UV component is particularly critical here.
Wait, UV light? Isn't that what I protect myself from with sunscreen? Why on earth would I want that in my print shop?
A fantastic question. Really, it gets right to the heart of the problem. You want it because your papers demand it.
The papers?
Yes. Many modern high-white papers are, to put it casually, pumped full of optical brightening agents, the so-called OBAs.
Okay, I know those brighteners by name.
They are basically fluorescent substances. They react to invisible UV light and convert it into visible, bluish light. That's what makes the paper appear so brilliantly white to our eyes.
Ah, I see. So if my lamp has no UV component or the wrong one, then these brighteners aren't activated correctly.
That's exactly it. You then see the paper white completely wrong. Usually more yellowish than it would be in reality under real daylight.
And that has consequences, of course.
Massive consequences. Because if you judge the paper white incorrectly, you automatically judge every color printed on it incorrectly as well. You might then try to correct a slight yellow from a skin tone that isn't actually there in reality.
A classic case of well-intentioned is the opposite of good.
Exactly. And that's a classic case of what you don't see ends up costing you money.
That's a huge point. That alone could explain many of these inexplicable deviations. Okay, so we have the UV component. What's the next hidden culprit?
That's a double whammy. Color rendering and metamerism.
Okay.
The color rendering, often expressed as the CRI value, must be very high, so over 90. That ensures that your lamp can basically reproduce all colors true to life.
That sounds logical. But you said metamerism was more insidious.
Much more insidious, yes.
Metamerism, that's that nightmare where two colors look the same under one light and then suddenly completely different under another, right?
Exactly that. That's the absolute nightmare scenario. Imagine the customer approves the proof in your perfectly standard lit viewing room.
Everything's great.
Takes it to his office and under, let's say, typical fluorescent tubes, and calls you because the subtle gray tone in the background suddenly has a nasty green cast.
Oh dear.
The colors were a perfect match under your D50 light, but it was a so-called metameric pair. They only looked the same under that one specific type of light.
And a good light audit prevents that?
It minimizes the risk. It uses special metamerism indices to ensure that your light keeps this problem as small as possible.
Okay, so that's 3 massive points. Pure brightness, the right color temperature including the invisible UV component, and high color fidelity that avoids metamerism. But I can imagine that all of this is useless if the conditions aren't the same everywhere.
You're touching on the 4th point, uniformity. Absolutely crucial.
Yeah, makes sense.
The best light is useless if it's perfect in the middle of your viewing booth, but 30% darker at the edges, or the color temperature is different.
Then your assessment depends on where the sheet happens to be lying.
Exactly. Then your color assessment depends on where exactly the printed sheet is lying. And that's why the entire area is measured in a 9-point grid. 9 points. At all 9 points, the values must be within the tight tolerances.
You don't want to have to constantly shift the sheet back and forth to find the good spot to look at. That makes perfect sense. Then there's the 5th point. What else can go wrong now?
Your surroundings. The light at the workstation doesn't exist in a vacuum after all.
True.
Imagine there's a bright red wall right behind the console. What happens?
The red actually reflects.
Exactly. Red light is reflected from the wall onto your white printed sheet, and your brain perceives everything as a tiny bit more reddish. You might then correct red out of the colors, even though it wasn't necessary at all.
And you're surprised in the end?
And you're surprised in the end. That's why the standard requires the surroundings to be neutral gray, matte, and low in color. Likewise, ambient light, from windows or the general hall lighting, is also assessed. That can completely ruin your perfect standard light.
Phew, that's really a lot of demanding criteria. Now I understand why my phone app for light measurement probably, isn't sufficient.
No.
So what are the professional tools to measure all of this precisely?
Well, phone apps are really just toys in this case. They can't capture the spectrum at all. In the professional field, you basically have to distinguish between two classes of devices.
Okay, which are?
On the one hand, there's the simple and straightforward lux meter.
That definitely sounds logical. It measures the amount of light in lux, which is the unit used for illuminance. This is point number 1 on our list.
Correct. And only that one point. It exclusively answers the question, is it about 2000 lux bright here?
Nothing more.
Nothing more. You can use it for a quick preliminary check, but for a full audit, it's completely insufficient. It tells you nothing, absolutely nothing about the light quality. So nothing about the color temperature, the crucial UV component, or the metamerism indices.
So it's like a fever thermometer. It tells you if you have a high temperature, but not whether it's a harmless cold or pneumonia.
That's the perfect analogy. You couldn't put it better. To find out why you have a fever, you need a complete blood count.
And that would be?
And this blood count is provided by the second, the crucial device, the spectroradiometer.
Spectroradiometer.
That's the industry standard and the only permissible tool for a standard compliant audit.
Because it doesn't just measure one value, but breaks down the entire light into its components.
Exactly. Like a high-precision prism, it breaks the light down into its complete spectrum, from UV to infrared. And from this spectral raw data, it then calculates all the relevant values in one go.
All in one.
All in one. The exact lux value, the color temperature accurate to within a few Kelvin, the color rendering index CRI, and above all, the crucial metamerism indices that correctly evaluate the UV component. Only this device can answer the question, does my light truly comply with the ISO standard?
And do I then have to manually enter the data from this device into an Excel spreadsheet and compare it with the standard values? That sounds tedious.
Fortunately not, no. A professional system always includes the right software, like GL Spectrasoft, for example. It's indispensable.
Okay.
You import the measurement data and the software automatically performs a target versus actual comparison and generates a standard compliant test report at the push of a button. This report is your official documentation and your working basis.
Okay, that sounds like a very well thought out system. Let's assume I want to implement this in my print shop now. How does an audit like this actually work in practice?
Well, the process is clearly structured. Step 1 is always the preparation. You select the critical stations, viewing tables, control consoles, light booths. And then comes an often forgotten but extremely important point, the warm-up phase.
Warm-up phase?
Yes, you can't just switch on a fluorescent tube or an LED and measure immediately. It needs at least 15 minutes to reach its stable operating temperature. If you measure too soon, the values are simply wrong.
Does that mean I also have to ensure it's dark during that time, like turn off all other lights, pull down the blinds? That sounds like a pretty big disruption to daily operations.
That's a very good practical point. Yes, you have to completely eliminate the ambient light to truly measure only the light from the lamp being tested. That's why these audits are often scheduled during off-peak hours or during maintenance windows, so as not to disrupt production.
Okay, so the stage is set, the lamps are warm. What happens in step 2?
Step 2 is the actual measurement. You place the spectroradiometer with its measurement probe directly on the work surface.
Right where the printed sheet would be.
Exactly. And then you work through the 9-field matrix we discussed. You start at the top left measure, then top center measure, top right measure, and so on until all 9 points have been recorded.
And the device helps with that?
Modern devices guide you right through the process. They often show you live with a kind of traffic light display, green, yellow, red, whether the measured value is within the tolerance range.
That almost sounds like a game.
And you do that for all the relevant lighting setups?
Yes. The whole thing is done separately for different conditions. The most important is P1, the critical color matching on paper with the 2000 lux. But there's also P2, the assessment on the monitor for the soft proof, where different, lower brightness levels are often required.
And once all the data is collected, it's on to the final step. Right, step 3, evaluation and measures. The data from all measurement points are loaded into the software, which creates the final test report with all the key figures, limit values, and, what's very helpful, clear graphics.
For visualization.
Exactly. They show you at a glance, for example, what the brightness distribution looks like. And most importantly, if values are outside the tolerance range, a good report provides clear recommendations for action.
So it doesn't just say it's broken, but also here's what to do.
Exactly. That could be, replace the tubes in fixture 3. They've reached 80% of their lifespan. Or, the window on the west side needs to be darkened. Or even, the yellow wall behind console 2 is distorting the measurement and needs to be painted a neutral color.
So it's not a document that just disappears into a drawer, but a concrete to-do list for making improvements.
Exactly. That's what it is.
If you want to implement this yourself now, you're faced with a choice. Do I do it myself, or do I bring in a professional? What are the options?
You basically have two paths, and both are perfectly valid. Option 1 is the comprehensive external audit.
The classic.
You hire a service provider, for example, a FOGRA-certified expert. They come with their high-precision, freshly calibrated equipment, measure everything systematically, and create an official certified report for you.
So that's the gold standard if I need it officially for a certification. Let's say for the process standard offset to prove my conformity to a client.
Absolutely. That gives you maximum security and an independent confirmation from an outside party. But of course, it also involves costs and scheduling.
Right?
And that's why the second option is becoming more and more popular.
Which would be?
Option 2, the in-house mini-audit. You get your own portable spectroradiometer with the appropriate ISO3664 function. That way, you're not tied to an annual appointment. Instead, you can regularly check your most important stations yourself.
So, self-monitoring in a way.
Exactly. Maybe once a quarter, or whenever you get the feeling that something isn't right with the color.
So that gives you much more control and flexibility in your day-to-day work. You go from being a passive recipient of a test report to an active manager of your light quality.
Perfectly phrased. You can proactively monitor the aging of your lamps and detect problems early before they lead to expensive complaints or lengthy discussions with customers.
An investment in process reliability.
Exactly. It's an investment in daily process reliability. Many of our customers also combine both. An annual, official, external audit as a reference.
As a benchmark?
As a benchmark, exactly. And in between, you do regular checks yourself with the handheld device to keep the quality consistently high.
That brings me to a final thought. Think about the last time a color just wouldn't look right, even though all the data was correct. Maybe the answer was hidden the whole time, right above your work, in the visible and invisible spectrum of light. The question isn't just what you see, but how you see it.
That's the heart of the matter. To sum it up, for a truly reliable color assessment according to ISO3664, you need much more than just brightness.
Okay?
You need the exact light color of 5000 Kelvin, the correct UV component for modern papers, excellent color rendering to avoid metamerism, and absolutely uniform illumination across your entire work surface.
That's quite a bundle of requirements.
Yes. And a spectroradiometer is the only tool that precisely measures all these factors and gives you the confidence you simply need for top-notch results.
So don't take your light for granted, but see it as one of your most important and precise tools. Controlling and standardizing it isn't a luxury.
No.
It's an absolute necessity for anyone who takes color seriously.
It's a crucial building block for predictable and repeatable quality. Nothing more, nothing less.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you'll tune in again soon to our podcast, Print, Think, and Optimize.